If money feels stressful, even when you're doing all the right things, if you're lying awake at night, stressing over money, even when there's nothing to be stressed about, if you find yourself constantly saying, it just doesn't feel like enough, or if you find yourself getting into a state of panic or anxiety whenever you experience fluctuations in your income, that is not a strategic problem. What that is your nervous system responding to an experience, a trigger in life that is outside of something that is familiar. Today, we're going to break down the nervous system, the stress responses, fight, flight, freeze, and fawn, and how those show up specifically related to money. And then I'm going to give you some tools that you can use to implement whenever you feel yourself getting activated, whenever you feel yourself going into this anxiety, this panic, this doubt, this fear. Welcome back to Money Breath Magic. This is where we talk all things money, mindset, nervous system, energetics, and I give you the strategies of how you can create your most abundant business and life yet. Let's start with what is the nervous system. And caveat, I am not a neuroscientist. I am not someone who studies the brain, but as a trained breathwork and somatics facilitator, I am trained in the tools that help us process these emotions and process these triggers that come up. So when we talk about the nervous system, what is the purpose of the nervous system? The nervous system is there to keep us safe. That is its number one priority. It is there to scan for danger, for potential things that might hurt us, that might harm us, that might kill us. And we need to be grateful for that. We have this nervous system that keeps us safe because there are times in life where we do need it. And if we think way back to when humans were in the caveman age, when they were out hunting and they were out gathering food and they didn't have shelter like we do today, they needed their nervous system. They needed to know when there was a stressor around them because it literally was keeping them alive. But as humans have evolved and now we have shelter, we have technology, we have access to food and water, our nervous system still thinks that we are back in the Stone Age. And so we still encounter and experience stress as if something in life is going to kill us, that we are going to die. Let's think about an animal. Think about a deer or some sort of animal in the wild that's just sitting there and it's grazing the grass. It's enjoying a beautiful sunny day, loving its grass. And all of a sudden a tiger appears and starts chasing the deer. Immediately that deer, its nervous system gets activated and says, holy shit, I gotta run, which triggers the flight response, and the deer takes off and starts running. Say it's a good day for the deer, outruns the tiger, and it's safe. It can go back to about its merry way. What happens is that deer is going to shake immediately. It's gonna shake off that energy, that nervous system activation that was built up in the body. It's gonna shake, expend that energy, and then it's gonna go right back to grazing the grass and enjoying the sunshine back in the present moment. The problem is that when we as humans experience some sort of trigger, say we experience some sort of money fluctuation or something that happens in our life, we're going through some sort of identity upgrade and we get triggered. We think that there is a threat to our survival, even if it's just us showing up on the internet and we're scared that someone's going to judge us, or we're scared that we're going to say something wrong, or that I'm going to fail, or I'm scared that my launch is not going to be successful. Whatever it is, it could be some sort of fear that has nothing to do with our actual survival. Our nervous system gets triggered and thinks that I literally am going to die. And so what happens is if we don't process that trigger that happened, like the deer shook it off, if we don't actually do something somatically to process that emotion, to process that trigger, it gets trapped in the body. And that can create a lot of issues because when we are holding on to these emotions, when we are holding on to the triggers and the old traumas that live in the body, it leads to us making decisions in our business and our life that aren't aligned with who we are trying to become. And it'll show up as us reacting, saying things that we don't mean. In business, it could look like we underprice our services. Can look like we're working with people that are misaligned. It can look like we are just constantly overworking and hustling because we feel like that's what we need to do to be successful. Tons of things can come out of what's living in the body. And the thing is, we don't actually even know it's there because this is all sitting in our subconscious mind. So our nervous system, our subconscious mind, again, just wants to keep us safe. And what feels safe to our subconscious and our nervous system is what's familiar, what's comfortable. And this is why so many people get stuck in their comfort zone. They get stuck doing the same thing every single day, every year after year, living the life that they don't even love, living the life that they don't even like. And they get stuck in it because it feels safe. It feels familiar. Because once we step over that ledge, it's shit. This feels so uncomfortable. And it's because our nervous system is being triggered. And so if we're thinking about our business, and as we're evolving in business, we're expanding, we're growing. Right now I'm going through this, and this is exactly what my experience has been the last couple days, is because my nervous system has been triggered because I'm creating new offers. I'm moving into the coaching capacity. And my whole life, I have been very strategic. I've helped people with the actual finances, the numbers. I know money. I know it inside and out. But I'm now moving into a different role where I'm now helping people with their nervous system. I'm helping them regulate. I'm helping coach them on the feminine side of business. And so now that I'm leaning into this, it's unfamiliar. I am being triggered. In the last couple of days, I found myself in the freeze response, which we'll go through. But I found myself with this whole list of things that I wanted to get done, accomplish, launch, and I literally could do nothing. I literally could not physically get my body to do anything. And this is what happens when our nervous system gets triggered. Everything from the conscious mind of long-term thinking and planning and actually doing things to move our business forward. When we get into the stress responses, that part of our brain is gone. You cannot be triggered in a heightened stress response and actually think about the long term, actually do any sort of long-term planning, because we need to deal with the activation that's actually happened. And the reason why this is happening, if we take this a step further, is because when our nervous system gets triggered, going back to the caveman days, we need the nervous system because we need to focus on keeping ourselves alive in that moment. We need to keep ourselves focused on if there's a threat around, if somebody's trying to attack us, if there's an animal out there, we need to be right in the present moment. Short-term thinking, we are keeping ourselves safe. And that's exactly what happens. There is no opportunity to think about the future. And so that's why it's so important that we regulate as we're working through the growth in our business and our life. This is a constant practice. It's not something where you regulate once and then you move on with your life and never have to regulate again. And one other thing I'll say about this is the goal is not that when your nervous system is regulated, that you are flying high and everything's great. The thing about nervous system regulation is we can get to a place of neutrality. That when things happen in life or in business or with our money, because we're gonna talk about money, when a big bill comes in, it's not that we fly off the handle and go into this immediate freak out where we're anxious and overwhelmed and in so much fear. It's this literally just happened to me today outside. I had to have somebody, I have a rental car right now because I am a digital nomad, and this rental car was parked off site, and I came back from a trip and somebody had hit the rental car. Did not leave a notice, so it was on me to get the rental car fixed. I have someone out there fixing the rental car right now, and it ended up being $650, not terrible. But when I got the quote for that, it wasn't that I allowed myself to completely spiral. I'm like, oh my God, $650. Like, we're to a place of neutrality. It is what it is. And my internal belief that is money is always working for me. And if money is always working for me, I have to be comfortable. I have to feel safe with letting money go. And the beautiful thing is I have this person who came out and fixed this car, and I get to give him a tip. On top of the work he drove here, he's fixing it in front of my house. I get to bless him. And so my perspective is when I get to circulate the money and pay for this car, this $650 gets to bless him. I'm circulating money, and that money is going to other people to help sustain their lives. So when we are regulated, we don't fly off the handle whenever we have these surprise outflows or inflows. When you receive a bunch of money, this is the classic example of somebody receiving a ton of money because they won the lottery and their nervous system cannot handle that much money. And they immediately, within the next 5 years, will have spent all of the money and they end up back to where they started or worse off. So when we get to a place of regulation, it's not that we feel amazing every single moment of every single day. Look, I just told you, I got so triggered the past 2 days. Like, shit is gonna come up. But we know that we can bring ourselves back to a place of feeling safe, we feel secure, we feel regulated in our own bodies, and we can move forward. So you can have the best strategy in your business. You can have the best marketing strategy, the best sales strategy, the best financial strategy, the best content strategy, everything. But if your nervous system is dysregulated, despite that strategy being executed perfectly, if you don't know how to handle the success, say a ton of success comes in from this strategy that you implemented, you will find a way to self-sabotage it. Or it will feel too overwhelming to where maybe you get this huge influx of business, but you don't know how to handle it. It's going to feel overwhelming. And what I want for everybody is I want everyone to create success in their business, but have it also feel good. If every single day you're suffering, that is no way of life to live. Okay, so let's talk about the 4 stress responses: fight, flight, freeze, and fawn. These show up whenever you feel some sort of stress in life, like you lose a client, an unexpected bill comes in, you have income fluctuations where your income dips below what you feel comfortable with in a current month. Some sort of stress happens in your business. We go into the different stress responses, potentially, if we're not coming from like a regulated state. The first one is fight. So in the fight stress response, this is where you feel like I have to overpower this in order to feel safe. Like I have to figure this out. I have to fight it in order to feel safe. And so what happens is in business, say you lose a client, we'll use that example. When the fight stress response comes up, you immediately go into action mode. You immediately say, oh my God, I need to replace this income. What am I gonna do? Coming up with all sort of different strategies and trying to launch stuff prematurely, trying to overwork, frantically trying to find and replace that income. Versus if we come from a regulated state, we say, okay, that client left, there's the immediate reaction. But we reflect, we pause. It's the sacred pause where we sit with it and we say, okay, are these clients actually aligned with where my business is going? We're able to say, I don't need to immediately run and go replace all of this income. This is giving me space to reevaluate, re-strategize, and just trusting. More is going to come. This universe is abundant. There's plenty of more clients out there. We don't need to immediately go into this response and try to repair it immediately. When this comes to money specifically, this can look like if you're somebody who is always checking your accounts. It's like this hyper obsession where I'm constantly opening my bank account multiple times a day, like making sure that it's all there. Maybe you are overly budgeting, like you're obsessively budgeting where you create a down to the penny, monitoring it constantly to make sure that you're not overspending. Fight energy comes with a lot of control because when I can control, we think we're controlling, like when I can control everything, when I can overpower this and try to control it and hold it tight as much as I can, That is creating safety. That is making me feel safe in my body. Now let's talk about the flight response. So the flight response is when you are thinking, if I can just get away with this, I'll feel safe. I just need to get away. Pew, I'm running, right? So with money, this can look like avoiding your bank account. This is such a big one. I see this with literally all the clients I start working with. I think most of them are in a position where they're avoiding their bank account. They're avoiding looking at their numbers. They're avoiding looking at their bills, their money. Like they think if I don't look at it, I'll feel better about it. This can look like doom scrolling. I totally fall into this one all the time, where if you find yourself constantly doom scrolling, like scanning Instagram or TikTok, working on something, and I feel like this feels unsafe, this feels unfamiliar, this feels scary, so I'm gonna go distract myself by doom scrolling. That's a flight response. I'm trying to avoid whatever the thing is that's triggering me. If you are constantly someone who is investing in courses all the time, it's okay, I'm gonna invest in this one. And rather than implementing what that course is telling you, you just jump from course to course. That's a flight response, because you are avoiding actually implementing the work that you learned because that feels uncomfortable and that feels unsafe. So rather than implementing and doing the integration work that doesn't feel safe, you just hop, you course hop. I've been guilty of that one too. If you're constantly feeling like this anxiousness of, I just need to get out of here, I need to avoid this, that's a flight response. A flight response feels very activated, like very anxious, like very, I need to get out of here, I need to run, escape this. It can also look like if you're procrastinating, that's a big one. If you're constantly find yourself procrastinating and finding something else to do, even if it's something that's like good, like even if it's, I'm gonna go clean the kitchen. If you're procrastinating so you can avoid doing the thing that you know that you need to be doing or want to be doing, but it's pushing you to that edge and it's uncomfortable, that's a flight response. A freeze response is pretty much what it sounds like, is where I am in freeze. I feel stuck. And it doesn't feel safe here. And it's what I found myself in the past couple of days, where I just shut down. You get a lot of brain fog where you can't even make decisions. It's just like nothing feels like it's clicking. You feel like numb. I don't even know what's going on. I just feel stuck. You just want to go lay in bed. You feel a lot of exhaustion, heaviness. You feel like, what is the point of all of this? There is no point. You feel like a lot of hopelessness. It's just a waste to even try to do this. I'm not cut out for this. It's a lot of these like self-deprecating, shut down. I don't even know where to start. Freeze happens when the system just feels way too overwhelmed and it just shuts down. And there's just not enough energy to do anything. And then we have the fawn response, which is actually really interesting. And I found myself in this one a lot in the past as well, is I don't want to upset anybody, because if I upset anybody, then I'm going to lose my sense of safety. And so it's this kind of tiptoeing, like not trying to like upset anybody, trying to be like the good girl. I think a lot of women tend to fall into this sometimes. And then in business, what this looks like is we end up underpricing our services or undercharging, or we end up giving work away for free, or accepting clients that are misaligned with us because we don't want to say no. We don't really have boundaries. Fawning is really when we fall into people pleasing. It's when we're saying yes when we really want to say no. It's also when we feel guilty because we're actually charging someone for our services. So I've actually seen this a lot in the businesses that I support, because I work with the health, the wellness, the spirituality space in the past. And because of the work that they're doing, that they're helping people and they're helping people change their lives, and maybe they're helping people who are in a position where they're struggling. And so as the service provider, I've seen in the past where they feel guilty of actually charging people for the service that they're offering, because what I'm offering, everyone should have access to, versus what I'm offering has value and I deserve to be compensated for it. And so I just want to say about all four of these stress responses and how they show up, there is no shame. Like literally no shame. We all have this. It's not like you're broken, that there's something wrong with your personality, that there's something wrong with you. Literally, we all have this in some capacity. And so it's just things that our brain has learned and developed over time. Most of the time, like in our childhood, a lot of this can be brought back to our childhood and things that we experienced growing up. And it's literally just parts of us that are inside that are trying to keep us safe. These are things that have been there literally since we were kids, and we're all dealing with it. Literally everyone on this planet has something that is gonna get triggered, and it's whether we ignore it and push it down and let it run our life, or we actually become aware of it. We take responsibility for our own well-being and we start to process it and heal it. And awareness is the first step. I think a lot of times in my experience is sometimes when I can just become aware of the thing that got triggered or that came up for me, just feeling into it for 90 seconds, for 2 minutes, sometimes is enough to process it and move on. It's just sometimes that part of us just wants to be seen, wants to say, hey, I am like feeling uncomfortable right now. And it's okay. Like, I recognize that this is just a part of me that is trying to keep me safe. Thank you so much for keeping me safe, but we're good. I got us. Like doing this YouTube channel, doing this new coaching offer, doing this new insert, whatever it is that's triggered. It's okay. We're not going to die. And it's just reminding that part of us that you are safe, we are safe. And again, sometimes just the awareness is enough to shift it. And if not, then we can go a layer deeper and start doing some somatic practices to actually move that energy, release it, and then we can move on. So let's talk about that next. So when you find yourself in the fight response, so say something happens in your business, you get triggered and you immediately want to go into fixing it, you feel anxious or you feel like, okay, I got to overwork, I got to go bust my ass in order to try to fix this thing. You go into anger and frustration. You just feel very activated is how the fight response feels. One of the best things that you can do is shaking. It's easy peasy, guys. Put on maybe a song or two of your favorite songs and you're literally just going to shake it out. Move your shoulders, shake your arms, jump up and down, wiggle, like whatever your body intuitively feels like it needs to do. I suggest you just close your eyes and feel what your body wants to do. It's like you're gonna feel weird doing this, okay? But I'm telling you, it is one of the best things that you can do to exert and move that energy. There's more energy in the body that needs to be released. Another thing that you can do is literally go for a walk. Like movement is one of the best things when you're in the fight response. We want to move the body, go for a walk, do a workout, get out in the sunshine, like actually moving that energy. Again, we're trying to exert the energy and move it. Again, I'm a breathwork facilitator, so I love the breath. Another thing that you can do when you find yourself in this fight response is parasympathetic breathing. So you want to breathe in for 4 counts. And then you want to exhale through your mouth like you're blowing through a straw for 8 counts. And then do it again. Breathe in for 4 counts and exhale slowly for 8 counts like you're blowing through a straw. We're taking longer to exert the breath. What that's doing is it's signaling to our nervous system that we're safe, because when we are activated, what happens is we get into this shallow breathing. I'm sure we've all experienced like anxiety, right? Like you feel activated. You feel like you can't get these deep breaths in, right? And so when we breathe slowly and it's a much slower exhale, what that does is it signals to the nervous system that like, oh wait, this trigger thing happened, but the body feels safe because she's breathing slowly. Sue Ellen is breathing so slowly. So there's nothing wrong. We are safe. And so what that does is that brings safety back to the body, and then we can move back to the task at hand. And again, we can get back to that long-term thinking. We can get back to that more strategic view and approach it from a non-activated, from a regulated state. And then when we find ourselves in the flight response, again, this is where running, I want to avoid this, I don't want to look at this, avoid, get me out of here. That's when we want to bring ourselves back to the present moment. So you can do the parasympathetic breathing that I just described, 4 counts in, 8 counts slow. That brings us back to the present moment. You can also press your feet into the ground as hard as you can and just close your eyes, press your feet into the ground and feel your feet on the ground. That's gonna bring you back into this moment because flight, again, we wanna run, we wanna get out of here. Push your feet into the ground for a minute and just breathe and feel the connection of your feet and the earth, that groundedness. That's gonna help us bring us back again to the present moment. And then the other thing is sensory orienting. So you can look in the room. So again, we don't wanna run, we wanna bring us back into this exact very moment. And you wanna look around the room and start identifying 3, 5 things that you can actually see. So in this moment, I see my coffee cup is right here. I see a monstera plant right here. I see this green chair right here. Start identifying things in the room and being very specific about what you can see in this moment. Some people do 5 things that you can see, 4 things that you can hear, 3 things that you can touch, and you start like bringing in all of the senses, maybe 2 things that you can smell. Because when we get back into the senses, that brings us back into the present moment. When we're in freeze mode, this is different than fight or flight because fight or flight, there's like too much energy and we need to exert that energy. When we're in freeze, there's not enough energy. We feel just, again, overwhelmed. A lot of times you're already feeling like you just want to lay in bed and do nothing. We want to bring just gentle movement back. So you can just stand up, put your hands, maybe like hug yourself and just sway back side to side. Just gentle movements, nothing insane, crazy, because it's when you're in this state, it's hard to do these intense movements. So just like some gentle swaying side to side. If you have a rocking chair, maybe just like that rocking motion is very soothing when you're in freeze mode. One breath technique that's good for this type of stress response is breath of fire because it's an activating breath. If you've never heard of breath and fire, it's all through the nose. So it's short burst of exhales through the nose and you're sucking your stomach in as you do it. So it's, and that's the activating breath to bring more energy into the body. And then also just switching up the environment, maybe getting outside if it's a sunny day, something that's like a stimulating environment, put on some happy music, some music that is uplifting, getting some fresh air, something that is just re-energizing you can also be really helpful. And then when we move into the fawn response and you find yourself wanting to say yes, maybe when you really say no, there's power in the pause. So before you do any sort of response, pause. Put one hand on your heart, one hand on your belly. Take a deep breath in and just ask yourself, what do I really want right now? What would be supportive for me? What is the answer that my higher self would give in this situation? And just feel into what is empowering for you. The sacred pause is beneficial in all of these situations because even when we're in like fight or flight, we immediately want to react. We need to become self-aware when we see these triggers happening and pause, self-reflect, become aware of the situation, how I'm about to respond. And if you can identify how you are subconsciously wanting to respond and bring yourself back to, okay, what is going to help me come back to a regulated state before I respond so I know I'm responding from a place of neutrality. And so these are just some of the tools that you can use in the moment whenever you feel activated. For the deeper traumas or the deeper triggers, there's a whole slew of other work that can be done. This is what my coach and I were actually just doing. We were doing some parts work, which I'm not going to speak on because I'm not trained in it, but parts work is very powerful. And it's really just speaking to that part of you that is feeling activated. And again, that is just trying to keep us safe. So highly recommend looking into parts work, a lot of other somatic practices. So there's layers to this, but on the surface, here are some immediate tools that you can use to address these responses. So let's bring this all back. Like, how does this help with money? How does this work help with money? How does this impact money? And so we talked about a lot of the triggers that can come up in our business and our life as it relates to money. And what happens is when we can approach money from a more grounded, neutral space, we feel better when we're interacting with money. When the nervous system feels safe, money feels less dramatic. We don't feel activated. We don't feel like we immediately have to go fix something or that there's something wrong with us. We don't immediately go into blaming ourselves or go into the shame spiral, the guilt spiral. We can approach these situations from a more grounded, neutral space. And what happens, again, just to recap, when we are able to do that, we are able to do long-term thinking. We're able to do long-term planning. When the nervous system is activated and we're in one of these stress responses, we can only focus on survival. We can only focus on keeping ourselves safe, and that means in the present moment. Remember back to the caveman, he can only think about what is going on in that present moment. We don't want to approach our money from this activated space because money requires a strategy, right? Our business requires a strategy. But when we're constantly activated, when we're constantly running our business and our life from fight or flight, we can't create strategies in our business and this long-term thinking because we're always focused on the right now, the survival. And this is where you're like overwhelmed, overworked, anxious, everything feels chaotic, and that is no way to have a business. We want our businesses to feel good. We want to feel safe. We want to know that we're supported. And the way that we do this is through this nervous system regulation work. This is how we build capacity to hold more. This is how we build capacity to up-level our lives, our businesses, take on new clients, step into this new elevated version of ourselves as a coach, as a healer, as a business owner, entrepreneur. This is how we are able to hold more money, to where when we bring in these massive amounts of money, we don't immediately self-sabotage and lose it all because we built the capacity in our nervous system to actually hold that money, to actually receive it. That's a whole nother big thing about this, is actually like building within our nervous system to be able to receive the money. And so this is why also that it's important to have money strategy and money systems built in your business and in your life, like doing money dates, where you're checking in with your money regularly, where you have a system in place of what you actually do with your money, where you are staying in touch and having a relationship with your money. Because by doing all of this and having a relationship with our money, that's also creating safety. That's also a sense of safety of, okay, I got this. I know what I need to do. I have a plan in place. I know if I get $50,000 tomorrow in my bank account, I know exactly where it's going, how I'm going to handle it. That creates safety. So there's kind of two parts to this, right? And that's why I teach this work in this way, is like we have to have the strategic, the systems in place, but we also have to work on the body, the nervous system, the mindset. It all is like this full picture, and that creates safety when we're looking at everything holistically. So there you have it. That's the nervous system in a nutshell, the stress responses and some tools. I hope these were helpful for you. Reminder, you do not need fixing. There's nothing wrong with you. It's literally our nervous systems just trying to keep us safe. Thank you, nervous system. It is doing exactly what it's intended to do. Thank God we have one, because if a tiger is chasing us, we want that nervous system to get activated and the fight response works, right? So we're so thankful that the nervous system is there, but we just don't want it activated when it comes to our money, to our businesses, and areas in our life where there is no threat to our safety or survival. So I hope this was helpful. Drop some comments below and let me know your thoughts. I'd love to hear from you. And make sure to hit subscribe so we can stay connected for all the great future content that I have planned for you. Hope you have an amazing week ahead. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll chat with everybody later. Bye.